My name is Katia, and today I'm going to be walking you through arrays, or Unit 6 of the AP Computer Science A curriculum in Java. So arrays are data structures that allow for the storage and management of large amounts of data or complex relationships in a single variable without the need for individual variables for each value. These are the most basic and the most important data structures in Java and are one of the easiest ones to understand. So arrays are important and they are fixed at creation, so the size cannot be changed after you create it, and arrays can also store both primitive data types and object references. So let's look at some examples. In this class array example, in our main function we have made a new array, integer array numbers, and assigned it to hold 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can initialize an array like this with the type followed by square brackets followed by the name equals curly brackets all your data. Or you can do like the next line says, create type of the variable brackets name equals new type, and in the square brackets you would put the size. So in this case we made a name array of size 3. This is important because this can't be changed later on. Now to access the array, we start by calling the name followed by square brackets and the index we want to access. In Java, indexing is starting at 0, so your first element would have the index of 0 and it would go up. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So here we access names of 0 and we set it equal to Alice. And in names of 1, we set it equal to Bob, and names of 2, we set equal to Charlie. So let's look at traversing arrays. Traversing arrays means going through all the elements in an array one by one. To make this a little bit easier, and instead of going and accessing each one and hard coding it, we use loops. So remember, again, as I said before, array indices start at 0. So be very careful when you use for loops and while loops that you don't have an array index out of bounds exception. So let's take a look at the example. The code implementation creates a new class, array traversal, and in the main method, we have made a numbers array that has 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Then, with a for loop, we will print out the element at index and then the data stored in that index. Using the for loop, we can go through every single part of the array and print out all the data. So enhanced for loops are another type of iteration that makes traversing an array a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about indices. So this loop iterates through each element, assigns the value that you're at in the array to a variable, and then you can use that variable in your code, and then it will loop back and keep going until it's reached the end of the array. So if you change this variable, because it's copied, it doesn't affect the original array. And you can also rewrite code using an enhanced for loop with an index for loop or while loop. They basically do the same. So here we can see we made an array called names with Alice, Bob, and Charlie, and then we have a enhanced for loop that assigns all of the names to string name as it loops through, and it will print out each name. One thing about using enhanced for loops is that you cannot access the indices, which makes it a little harder, but if you want a simple print statement, you don't need the indices, so these are very good for printing out all your data. So developing algorithms using arrays. We use algorithms with array traversals to process various input data more efficiently. These algorithms can be used, modified, or developed to perform tasks such as finding the minimum, maximum, calculating sums, averages, other math equations, and so on. So in this code, we're checking in one array, we're checking for the index of the largest number. So in the numbers array, we have 5, 12, 8, 25, and 4. So we want our answer in the int max, we should have 25. So what we do is we have an enhanced for loop. We check each number of the numbers array to see if it's greater than the max. If it is, then we set the max to the new number. And it will loop through, and at the very end, in our max integer variable, we will have the greatest or the max value of the numbers array.